Welcome to Community Conversations. I'm your host, Steve Mantis, and my guest today is Frances Wesley from the Thunder Bay Indigenous Friendship Center and the coordinator of the Indigenous Peoples Court.
That's right.
Welcome very much, Frances.
Thank you.
Let me start just a little bit with your own kind of background. Did you grow up in Thunder Bay? Tell us a little bit about your own personal history.
Yeah, no, I actually grew up in Long Lac, Ontario, and my ancestors come from Fort Albany, James Bay. So we're Cree people living amongst the Ojibwe people here in this territory. And I grew up in Nikina, or Long Lac and Nikina. Went to high school in Geraldton and came to Thunder Bay and moved around to the big cities like Ottawa and Toronto, and eventually came back here.
So you're a small town girl who's now fitting in with these big cities, eh?
Yes.
So when did you end up moving into Thunder Bay for a permanent?
I came here in 1983. I moved here from Toronto with my three sons. But prior to that, I came here to attend Confederation College and participated actually at the Indian Friendship Center ever since I moved to Thunder Bay back in the early days in the 70s when the Friendship Center was first built.
Right.
So I've got a long history with the Friendship Center.
Excellent.
Yeah. And
what did you take at the college?
I took early childhood education and I didn't do so well there. And but I did take community development type of work, and that's pretty much what I've been doing all throughout my working years, is developing projects that would benefit the Indigenous community. So that's something that I really enjoy. Mm-hmm.
Well, and you've just been kind of leading the charge on a new program here in Thunder Bay. I don't know if it's just Thunder Bay or the region, but it's the Indigenous Peoples Court. Did I get that right?
That's correct. It's just not for people who live in the community of Thunder Bay, because we do hear some clients who are in Thunder Bay are from Long Lac, around the surrounding region. So, but it's focused more for Thunder Bay in the north, because we get a lot of people from outside of the community who face charges in our courthouse or within this district. So we had our first Indigenous Peoples Court that was held on Monday. It was a young girl she doesn't live in Thunder Bay. So we have to, it becomes a challenge for us, but in a good way, because then we connect more with the communities, because part of our process is to help that individual go through a healing journey, and we need to connect with the services within the communities outside of Thunder Bay.
So this is a court for people who are facing criminal charges? Is that how it works?
Yes, it's criminal charges. And in order for you to be eligible to go into this courtroom, is that you have to be willing to heal. You have to be plead guilty to the charge that you've committed, to the offenses. Could be one or more than one offenses. Often is more than one offense, and agree to the facts that are presented by the lawyer and the Crown, and begin your healing journey. Because what I tell people is, when you're guilty of something, it has to come from within. The courts can't tell you, we found you guilty. That's the difference. In a mainstream courtroom, when you go to a trial or whatever, and you plead guilty to a charge, sometimes it's a negotiation kind of thing, and you say if you plead guilty, you'll get 2 years in jail. But if you plead not guilty and you go through a trial and you fight it, you may get a longer sentence. So, so we tell our clients, or our clients will need to understand that you have to admit to the crime that you have committed. You have to take responsibility and take ownership of that crime, because you're guilty of it. And you come into this courtroom and you talk about that. It's a sentencing court, and a lot of people may not like the idea, but the majority of people who understand the process will like the idea, because it does help individuals who go before the courts to begin their healing journey.
So this isn't an issue that you bring to court where you're fighting whether it's guilty or not guilty.
Yeah.
The person has to right away say, I admit it, I'm
Yeah.
guilty,
That's correct.
I'm sorry,
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
and I want to make amends more kind of.
Make amends and to make amends basically to yourself. You know, like what brought you into this courtroom in the first place? Like how did you get your? Oftentimes you'll find the people who go before the system, it's alcohol related, or drug related, and so you have to ask yourself like, why am I drinking so much? I'm likely hiding some like really deep issues, and that's where we bring in the GLADU reports that, you know, to talk about some of the pains and the hurts that you've lived with all throughout your life, and it could be for anything. I mean, sadly, a lot of our people have been either been involved with the sexual assault, sexual abuse, trauma from the residential school system, intergenerational effects from, you know, having their parents being in residential school. It affects us, and sometimes we don't understand it, or why we feel this. Why are we so angry with society? And so we have to come to terms with that, and that's what we hope to achieve in that courtroom. Is a healing plan, is to develop a healing plan for the individual, or the individual being part of the healing plan to devise that plan on how they're going to help themselves.
Now, before the show, I went on the internet and started looking around, and I found something back even to 2010 where this was being talked about. What's the background? Why did this come about in the first place?
Well, for Thunder Bay, we started the conversation in 2010.
Okay.
It was through the Urban Aboriginal Strategy Initiative, one that I actually had coordinated, facilitated the Urban Aboriginal Strategy Program. And we developed community circles in Thunder Bay, and one of them was a justice circle. And we brought sectors from people who were involved in court work programs, justice programs. It could be social justice, anything. And we said, okay, what would we like to achieve from this committee? And they said, we would like to lessen the overrepresentation of Aboriginal people in jail. And I thought, wow, that's a big undertaking. And I wondered, how are we going to do that? And this is what they said. We want to have, at the time we had called it GLADU Court, because that's what we were familiar with, because we had heard about the courts in Toronto. And we brought in the guest speakers. We brought in Jonathan Rudin, who's the executive director of the Aboriginals Legal Services of Toronto, and we brought him in. He shared information to us about, you know, setting up GLADU courts, and then so that's how it began. And we started having conversations with the Ontario Court of Justice here in Thunder Bay, and because they were starting to build a court, that conversation kind of stopped for a while, and then they built a court. They did a study.
This is the brand new courthouse over in Fort William, downtown Fort William.
Yeah, they were amalgamating it, and they decided through a report that was done by the courts, it's called the Aboriginal Conference Settlement Suite Report. They come to...
Hang on right there. We're just need to take a short break.
Okay.
Please stay with us. We'll be right back.